welcome to GMAT Tuesday. Today, we're talking about silly mistakes. Hi! Oh, look at that silly mistake I made. There we go. We're gonna work on eliminating silly mistakes, like starting a video with a bag on your head. Okay, so this is a common situation that lots of students ask about and lots of students encounter. I encounter it as well as like going through a problem, solving it, I choose an answer choice, check the answer, and I'm like, I made this silly mistake. I shouldn't have gotten that question wrong. How do you get rid of those? How do you eliminate those sorts of situations? And it's an excellent thing to be thinking about. And there's a couple of things that you want to consider. First, the type of mistake. When you say it's a silly mistake, is it truly a silly mistake? So for example, if you're doing some calculations and you have a 2 and a 4 and you know you need to add them together and then you write down 8. That's a miscalculation. It's a silly sort of miscalculation. You multiplied instead of adding. And so that would, I'd say, classifies as a silly mistake. If you wanted to choose B and you ended up pushing the button and you hit C, that's a silly mistake. So those types of things we're going to talk about here. The other types of mistakes that happen might not be a silly mistake. It might be something that actually is a mistake. So think about, was it a conceptual error you made? Did you actually know the concept? Did you not choose the right approach? Those might not be silly mistakes, so you might want to reclassify those as a different type of mistake. But if it's truly a silly mistake, if you're making that sort of, if you're miscalculating things or you're making the wrong selection, then that is something that we can handle and deal with. So, first thing to think about, when did the mistake happen? And so, I mean, when you're solving the problem, at what point in solving the problem did you make the mistake? Was it at the very beginning? Was it in the middle? Or was it at the end? What I find is that a lot of times when I make silly mistakes and when I see people make silly mistakes, it's at the end of the problem. It's one of those things where people sort of see the finish line and they start to get excited and they're excited to move on to the next thing. They think they're ready to win the race. And then they sort of let down their guard. They're not as focused. We've seen sports teams do this where they're winning, and then at the very end, they just can't finish, and then the other team wins. Or there's all these, you've seen videos of people who are like, oh, I'm going to win the race, and they're already celebrating, and then someone dashes by them because they're committed until the very end. So I would suggest in these types of situations, if you're near the end, slow down. That's when you really need to focus. Know that people let their guard down. That people tend to make mistakes toward the end because they know they're toward the end. They feel like they're already done. Slow down. Focus on the last couple things that you want to do and do them correctly. Don't rush ahead, and when you get to the finish line, make sure you take your time to do things correctly so you don't make any silly mistakes. Also, when you make a silly mistake, how long had you been studying? Had you been studying for 4 hours? And you made a bunch of silly mistakes in the last 30 minutes of your study? I think I know why you're making silly mistakes. You're tired. You're losing focus. And that's understandable. People lose focus and get exhausted. And then they start to make mistakes. And so if you find that you're making lots of mistakes after a long period of studying, that means you need to take a break. You need to schedule breaks into your study schedule every hour. Take a break, stop for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and rest. Don't continue forward continually studying because you're going to make those silly mistakes. A lot of times we lose focus and make those mistakes because we're tired and exhausted. So make sure you're taking breaks. For the test, you're not going to be able to take a break. I mean, there's scheduled breaks, but if you're feeling tired and exhausted during the test, there's a couple of things to prevent this. One is make sure you're taking lots of practice tests. So taking full-length practice tests will prepare you for the length of the test. But on test day, if you find yourself feeling a little tired and exhausted, close your eyes. Take a deep breath and just count to 10. And then open your eyes again and dive back in. You'll be surprised how sitting back, closing your eyes, not looking at the computer screen, and just resting for 10 seconds, focusing on taking deep breaths will rejuvenate you and help you to continue focusing at a very high level. All right, so those are my tips for eliminating those silly mistakes. I recommend that you subscribe to our videos. You can subscribe by clicking on the check marks over here, and then you'll know when we release new videos. Be excellent to the universe and be silly. Bye.